Welcome, Motorsport commentator Alan Hyde. Thank you very much for coming on the show and getting involved. But how are you?
Well, I'm really good. Today is an exceptional day, Louis, because obviously I've had my hair cut, so I look half human again. The hairdresser had told me, she sent me a text when we started the lockdown. She said, "Do not touch your hair. Do not do anything to it," because I mean, it's a problem for them. Because
Yeah,
I guess on a day like today, they have people coming in and they've been cutting their hair for years and years and looking after it and making sure that it's all okay. And then all of a sudden, a day like today happens, and there's lumps out of here and lumps
yeah,
out of there, and they've been doing it all themselves. It makes their job really difficult. But I went for the second appointment that she had for the day because, to be honest, if she hasn't done it for 3 months, I want her to practice on someone else before
yeah.
she chops into mine. So it's a very good day, Louis. It's a
Yeah.
great day.
It's good to hear. So when did you actually get into motorsport commentary?
So I was 1993 is the answer, and I was involved in music production, and therefore I was involved in radio, and I was presenting a few shows on a radio station down in Kent, um, which led on. I'd just been writing jingles for the radio station, to be honest, and then presenting sort of happened after that, presenting roadshows, and and I used to go to motor racing when I was a teenager. I used to go to racing to watch, but after I left school, I stayed friends with my English teacher from school, whose name is Tony Coles, and he's a big motor racing fan. So we became friends at school while he was my teacher, and then we stayed friends afterwards. And it was interesting because after I left school, he was commentating on a few little club meetings. He raced a car and he marshals, and he was commentating on a few little club meetings. And I used to love going along with him. We don't need it now, but back in the sort of late 80s, early 90s, a commentator would need a lap charter because we didn't have timing screens in the commentary boxes. So the guy alongside would be writing down a list of numbers every time they came past, and then the next lap, and then the next lap, and trying to keep in touch with those that have gone a lap down, so adding it on to the previous. So I used to do that with Tony, and loved it. It was a great way to spend a Sunday. And meanwhile, I was doing my sort of radio work and my music work, and then there was one meeting that Tony was doing at Thruxton down in Hampshire, and it was out at the complex. He was going to be out at the complex, which is just a fantastic place to watch motor racing. I love it down there.
Yeah.
The podium interviews. I'd had a car accident. I can't remember the guy's name, but he'd had a car accident. His car was out of action, so he couldn't get to the circuit. And I suggested to Tony, maybe I could do that. So Tony then suggested it to the then boss of Thruxton, Dennis Carter, and the then boss of commentators in the country, Robin Bradford, and said, we've got this chap, and he sort of knows how to talk into a microphone, and he knows a little bit about motor racing. So, do you want to give him a go? So they gave me a go. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And they must have been happy, because they then asked me if I could do another meeting at Thruxton, which was maybe a month later, something like that. And it was, it was amazing. It was being the lap charter for the commentator in the main box, and which wasn't Tony, it was Ian Titchmarsh. But at the same time, could I also go down and do the interviews for the podiums for the support races? So, for my second commentary job, I was sort of, I was at a touring car meeting, which was a bit of a dream. I was probably about 10 years, no, probably about 15 years older than you.
Yeah.
And it was a huge thrill, and I haven't really looked back since, because my working life sort of took a different direction, but it still utilizes all the things that I was doing. So I still work in radio, I still produce programs, and I still produce recorded material, promos and adverts and all that kind of stuff. But I can enjoy this passion at the weekend. So it's win-win for me, Louis.
Yeah, good. That's an incredible story. But what sort of advice would you give to anyone, like myself, wanting to get into motorsport commentary?
Well, first of all, I mean, you're ahead already. You have to possess a good voice, and in my broadcasting career, my voice has been something I've had to look after, because when I was involved in the music business, I was a singer and also a smoker. So don't smoke. It's not a good thing, because it does damage, and you need to look after your voice. So you need to have a strong voice. That's the advice that Titch gave me all those years ago, when I asked exactly the same question to him. And you have to do your preparation.
Yeah.
So prep, it's the same for a broadcaster, it's the same for a racing driver, it's the same for anybody that talks to the public. You need to do your prep. Yeah. And my rule of thumb is that for every day that you're broadcasting, you should do a day's prep. So, I lied already. I see a touring car weekend as one event, so I do a day's prep for that. I make sure that I've got everything. There is no. It's a weird thing. It's something that's happening more and more on TV nowadays. Is that people get involved in broadcasting having had a sports career.
Yeah.
So Tim Harvey is a great example of that. A former champion in the BTCC, and he's turned his hand to commentary.
Yeah. And
does it brilliantly well. But that is because he's taken advice from people that have already been doing it, and he does his homework.
Yeah.
So he doesn't just rock up and think, well, I'm Tim Harvey, I'm a touring car champion, I know everything. But he has stats written down like I would have for a weekend, and he's attacked it in an incredibly professional way. But it is quite odd that the fact that when you're watching TV, not just motorsport but all sorts of sports, the amount of people that are ex-sportsmen or women and then get into television presenting, and you watch them grow, because you see them initially do the job and they haven't prepared for it, and they're just talking because they've got the experience of doing it, and then they watch everyone else around them and they think, all right, okay, there's more to this than actually that meets the eye. I don't know everything just because I've watched the last round of whatever, or I've watched the last Masters or whatever it is. It doesn't mean to say that I know enough to be able to talk to the public about it. So you have to do your homework.
Yeah, exactly. And I was actually going to ask, maybe not so much now, but when you did first start, were you did you get nervous before you'd start commentating live?
Yeah, and I still do.
Really?
Yeah, before, certainly before. Well, maybe I'm a little bit, because I'm older. I'm a little bit old school, but everything you do in broadcasting is potentially a broadcast to the whole world, particularly nowadays, because a recording or a video or an audio recording goes viral before you know it. So you need to stop and think, and not just because you're talking into a television camera, or talking into a radio microphone or anything like that, but also before you talk on Twitter and Facebook, when you're saying things that represent you. It's a global broadcast, and you want it to be right. So if you've got that little tingles of nerves in your tummy, that's a good thing, because
Yeah.
it's adrenaline coursing around your body, trying to help you do the right thing. So for any broadcast, you need to have those little twangs of nerve to fire the body up and get the mind ready, and make sure that you're doing it right. Because if you're a broadcaster, that's the idea, that you want to do it right every single time. And occasionally we make mistakes, and everyone makes mistakes, but to have that little fire of nerves. The only thing is, and I will say something about this, Louis, because you're young and you're interested. I remember working with someone when I was pretty early on in my commentary career, and I turned up to work with somebody, and they said that it was a big meeting. I don't know what, I can't remember exactly what meeting it was, but it was a formidable meeting, and they said to me that they hadn't slept the night before because they were nervous about it. And it I didn't say it out loud, but I certainly thought it. This isn't the job for you. Go and find another job to do. Because if you're that nervous, then you can't attack the day's work properly. You need to be able to have got a decent night's sleep, be properly rested, in order to do it. So there's a fine line between being nervous and getting the adrenaline pumping, and actually being over nervous about it, and therefore not being able to do the job. So it's a question. I guess it's like an actor, or anyone that goes into public performance, really. Those little twangs of nerves before you turn the microphone on, it's a good thing. It tries to stop you from saying the wrong thing, or getting something wrong.
That's completely understandable. And what in your opinion, what do you think is the best thing about the job?
I've been to places in the world that I never would have thought that I'd have gone to. I had quite an incredible few years when I was working for BMW, when BMW were in Formula One, working on their Formula BMW project. So I was traveling to Grand Prix all over the place, and I was also working on A1 GP that period as well. So the most important thing to me at the time was, have I got clean clothes? Because you were getting back from one amazing place in the world and going to a circuit that you hadn't been to, and then packing to go off to another. So that was a treat, because I would never have visited those places, and I still do. I still go to every year, which is an incredible experience. More than all of it, more than everything. So I've got all these incredible places. I love the sport. I love motor racing. I have done since I was little, and I had a little John Player Special sticker on my going away suitcase when I was probably 5 or 6 years old, I think. And I've always loved motor racing, but more than all of it, it's the people that I've met. I've met such a diverse collection. Some of which are now really, really totally dear and loved friends of mine, who hopefully I'll have as my friends for ever and ever. But so I guess if there's a reason why what I do, which is to interview, sometimes I talk about races and I'm in a commentary box, but where I'm in my natural habitat is in the pit lane chatting to people, because that's what I love. I love talking to other people. I'm not so much of a fan of my own voice. I like getting to know other people and finding out stuff from them. And I've been really lucky. I've got some amazing friends that I've met through racing, and it's been my life, really.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think we are very lucky in the motorsport community because I think especially with British touring cars because everyone's looking to help each other and it's a brilliant community. Whether you're heavily involved, like being a driver, like you when you're a commentator, or just a fan like me, I think everyone gets involved and it's brilliant. So
It's a family,
yeah,
and particularly with the BTCC, it's really noticeable actually. So to obviously, if you're involved in something, for a long period of time, like I have been, you get to know some people and you get to be good friends with people. And there'll be two little moments that I'll pick out from my life. So in 2005, my mum had cancer. She had terminal cancer, and I was caring for her that year. So it was traumatic. It was upsetting, and it was hard work. I was getting pretty tired, but I was still able to go to work. We'd get a carer in for the weekend so that I could go off to touring cars and other race meetings as well. And it was weird for me. It was like it was as soon as I walked into the paddock or drove into the paddock, I could forget my troubles for a weekend.
yeah,
Mum's being looked after. I don't have to worry about her. She's being taken care of, and now I can just focus. And the people were huge, a huge part of that. I remember Matt Neal won a race. I could have looked up I could have done my prep for this.
yeah,
I could have looked it up. He won a race, and when he was being interviewed on TV, he said something nice about my mum, and she was obviously watching at home on the telly. And last year, I ended up getting poorly. I got cancer last year as well,
yeah,
and had to go into hospital and have an operation. And so I missed two meetings. I missed Alton Park and Knockhill last year.
yeah,
And David Addison said something very kind about me not being there on the TV, and then it was like an influx of messages. No one else knew until David, with my blessing, said, "Can I mention it?" Yeah, absolutely fine. And then just this huge amount of not just my close friends that have been around from when I was diagnosed, but all of a sudden, everyone wishing you well. It does make a difference. It put me in a positive frame of mind, and I wasn't just sort of all on my own. And that's the family.
yeah.
It's a wonderful thing, and it's and something that we're quite blessed with. Really, it's a nice place to be. It's a lovely place to be.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And well, also you mentioned earlier about the traveling involved with your job, but what's your favorite circuit to commentate at and interview and visit and watch racing really?
That's a great question. So my most beloved circuit is Thruxton.
Yeah,
I now I didn't before. I used to live near Brands Hatch, but I live down near Thruxton now. I go there quite often during the week. Get to know the people, Pat, who looks after the circuit, and all the people down there. But the reason it's such an amazing place for me, well, it's a unique place. It's got all of its character from when it first opened.
yeah,
It's an incredibly brave circuit. So the interviews that I get with people are always a little bit wide-eyed and a little bit different to the sort of normal, yeah.
yeah,
It catches everyone's attention. So I have to say that my most beloved circuit is Thruxton. I adore Brands Hatch.
yeah,
Because I grew up near Brands Hatch, so that was the first circuit I went to and the circuit I used to go to regularly as a kid. I love Silverstone because I never would have thought when I was growing up that I'd end up working at a Grand Prix. And now I have. I've worked at every Grand Prix since 1995,
yeah,
apart from last year
yeah,
when we didn't go. because there was no one to talk to. So there's 3 circuits that have a personal meaning to me.
Yeah.
For touring cars, Knock Hill is amazing.
Yeah.
Knock Hill is just, and again, it's an unspoiled circuit. It's brilliant for touring car racing, run by great people, and thoroughly enjoyable weekend to go there. In fact, probably one of my favourite race weekends every year is to go to Knock Hill. So I was really grumpy that was one of the 2 that I had to miss last year.
Yeah,
that's not fair. That's not right. And the other. So 2 foreign circuits that I'll give you as well that I adore, and for different reasons. Macau is amazing.
Yeah,
it is incredible. It's the most astonishing motor racing circuit on the planet, and it's and also it's the most astonishing place and event to go to. You know you're somewhere different. Before the Formula 3 race, before the Grand Prix gets underway, there's a traditional line dance which takes place on the circuit in front of the cars. It couldn't be anywhere else. It has to be at Macau. So that's one.
Yeah.
And another circuit that I adore from a sort of a beloved point of view is the Singapore circuit, because that was I was at the first Singapore Grand Prix,
yeah,
and working for BMW, which was full of controversy when Nelson Piquet Jr. went off and hit the wall, and he hit the wall just in front of where I was standing. But what it reminded me of, because it was a night race, and Formula One hadn't done the night race until Singapore. It was one of the reasons why I first sort of got involved in motor racing and loved motor racing, and I got bitten by the bug, if you like. Was the idea of the glamour. When you look from the outside looking in, it just looks so glamorous and wonderful. And Singapore was that. You only had to look around the circuit and see the twinkling night lights in the sky, and the wheel, and the huge crowd, and Formula One cars, and the paddock, and everything about it. It was just it for me. It epitomised, when I was actually at that first Grand Prix. I thought, oh right, yeah, this is what first sort of dragged me into motor racing in the first place back in the 1970s. It's just it's unique again. So all of those answers, I've just worked out what the thread is between them. I like them all because they're unique.
Yeah, absolutely. You picked some great circuits. I was lucky enough to go to Thruxton for the first time in 2019, and I really loved it. I love the sort of, like you mentioned, the historic nature of it. Not much of it's been changed. Not walking through the paddock, it's incredible. And Knock Hill, is still on the bucket list for me. But seeing the cars flying, bumping over the curbs and stuff like that, it's very tight, and it's incredible. So yeah, I'd love to go. Hopefully soon.
Well done on coming to Thruxton, and Thruxton's also great for spectators, isn't it? Because you can have a good walk around a good part of the circuit, and it's open, and you can see stuff. And the 2 proper spectating areas that you can go to down at Club Chicane and at the complex, you're going to get action there. Yeah. So it's awesome. Yeah, awesome. And good man. Come again.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't have spectators for the first one this year, but we've got 2 meetings at Thruxton this year, haven't we? So yeah.
It's obviously it's a bit of a trek from us, because we're in Norfolk. We're just a few miles away from Snetterton. So
that's a long way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So we went. So it's 2019. So we went for qualifying, and got there sort of midday on the Saturday, ready for qualifying on the Saturday afternoon, and stayed over at a nearby hotel. And it was brilliant. Like you mentioned with Thruxton, because it's such a high speed circuit. I've got a lot of respect for the drivers anyway, but to drive Thruxton that well, there's so many difficult parts. You mentioned the chicane, like that always serves up some close racing as well. But it's incredible, and I look forward to it this year with touring cars.
Well, I think when are we back there this year? So the opening one is behind closed doors, but I think um, August. Is it
Yeah, I
August? I'm
think it is
pretty sure it's
August. Yeah,
August. Yeah, yeah. Well, we're keeping our fingers crossed
yeah,
that spectators can be allowed in from the the meetings after Thruxton,
yeah,
and let's hope that we can do it for the whole year. We were lucky last year. I mean, it was incredibly unlucky that we weren't allowed to have spectators,
yeah,
but incredibly lucky that the season all completed and we weren't blighted by a lockdown or a tier 4 or something like that.
yeah.
So yeah, we keep our fingers crossed that this year we have that luck as well, and that we can get spectators back, because that's what the BCCC is about.
Yeah.
You know, but as not just for the spectators, but for the teams and the drivers as well, just to be playing to the crowd, to the audience,
Yeah.
it just makes such a difference.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I definitely I'm really hoping, as I mentioned, Snetterton's my local race, just a few miles away, and definitely hoping to be there. We've got our tickets sorted, so fingers crossed we'll be trackside. But yeah, it was certainly strange last year not being able to go. Obviously everyone involved did an amazing work putting the whole season ahead. There was real uncertainty with various lockdowns and tiers and rules and stuff, that we might not have actually got a season at all. And I think everyone really did appreciate it, but it got underway. But we certainly did have a great racing season, even if there was no crowds. And I think we all enjoyed it at home on the telly, on the radio as well. So
we just all had to adjust our lives last year, didn't we?
yeah,
And I suppose the phrase that we used, maybe more than any other phrase last year as it unfolded, was "it is what it is."
yeah.
There's nothing we can do to change it, so we just have to crack on with it, and that's what everyone did to great effect, really.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're so looking forward to the British touring car season. I won't keep you for too much longer, but just ask a few more questions.
Yeah, of course.
Tin Top Tuesday is brilliant. We all love it as touring car fans. When it's super popular. Did you ever expect it to get to
No,
this?
no, we didn't. And the reason that Tin Top Tuesday started was, so it would have been 2005.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, dear friend of mine, that I do Radio Silverstone with at Silverstone, Gary Champion, works for a company called Globecast, and Globecast are a global satellite communications company. So they do television links for TV, and they're a global company. They've got offices all over the world. Big company, and they started to run a radio station on Sky, on the Sky platform, called Globecast Radio, which for various events that they were doing through the year, for example, they had the contract to provide a radio service for Crufts.
Yeah.
And the idea was that with Globecast Radio, they could say, okay, Crufts, not only are we going to provide a radio station for the people that are at the NEC at the 4 days of Crufts, but it's also going to be on Sky as well. So it was a good platform for them, but they had to fill slots during the week when there weren't events on.
Yeah, of course.
Because it was a 24-hour a day radio station. So Gary said to me, "You could do something on touring cars, couldn't you? Can you do a show with touring cars?" So I said, well, "I could do an hour." And it was every week. Back then, it was every week. So Matt James, the editor of Motorsport News, and me, who is a good mate of mine, we got back from media day one night, and we went live for an hour at 8 o'clock, talking about what we'd just seen at the media day. Didn't think anyone would be listening, but all of a sudden, emails started coming in from people that were listening. All right, okay, there are some people listening. So, and very soon we realised that the drivers, we weren't just covering the BTCC, we were doing DTM and
Yeah.
tin tops around the world, really. And drivers were really happy to come on and have a little chat with us. So it just sort of took off from there, really. And as the year, there was a couple of years that we didn't do because we didn't have a sponsor to be able to do it. But when we started up again and decided to focus just on the BTCC, I realised it's become a bit of a niche thing. And you know, people do look forward to it, and they do. It's a quirky little show, and I'm a quirky little bloke, so I guess it makes sense. But maybe one of the biggest things that people say to me about the show is that they love the fact that it's a radio show, so it's got music. I adore music, so I'm quite happy to play music. The actual reason that I play music is to give me a chance to finish off one call and start the next call. So it just literally gives me that 3 minutes that I can get the next call on air. But you know, I did wonder, with the advent of Instagram lives and Facebook lives and all of those kind of things, there's a lot of interviewing going on. And I thought, I wonder if people will sort of gravitate away from Tin Top Tuesday and gravitate to the various Facebook lives. It has not affected us at all. It's amazing. It's just because I suppose it is a unique little thing, and it's got its own quality, all of its own. I will say as well, I've not announced it yet, but I'm working on a show for before the season starts this year, which is going to be a Murray Walker special, because I got to know Murray quite well and worked with him quite a lot over the last sort of 15 years or so. So me, like everybody else, really upset that Murray passed away, and I think we all rather thought that Murray would go on forever. And when he passed away, I thought, well, I'll go to Autoclim, our sponsors, and say, you know, can I do a special? Because there are some great stories around the BTCC that refer to Murray. So instantly I think, oh, well, I'll get Steve Ryder. He's worked with Murray for years. He's got some lovely stories. Louise Goodman, John Cleland, so many people that would be happy to share a story. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to do get everything together and do a Murray Walker Tin Top Tuesday, probably the week before Thruxton, the first round. I'd like to do that. And the reason is that Murray has been on every single show we've ever done, because I got him to do that little jingle. Wow, it's Tin Top. In fact, that was a cheeky thing. I'd gone there to do an interview with him. I went to his house, and it was an interview with him for Goodwood Radio. And I finished doing the interview, recording the interview. And I said, Murray, could I be really cheeky while the recorder's going? Could I ask you? We've just started doing a radio show. Could we ask you to do? And it's go for Tin Top Tuesday. He said, no, I can't do that. He said, I'll do something else. So clearly that he had a deal with someone or an agreement with someone that he'd only do say go if it was a motor race or something. I don't know. But he said, no, I'll do something else. So, wow, it's Tin Top Tuesday. And then it's amazing, isn't it? People that listen to a radio show have got all the little things that they like. So people wrote in and said, love the Murray Walker jingle. So the next time I saw him was about a year later, and I was recording a podcast for Motorsport magazine with him. So the idea is that there were 4 or 5 people sat around a table, and I'm setting up the recording gear, getting audio levels correct and all that kind of stuff. So I was going around the table, and I said, Ed, could you give me a bit for level? Yep, 1 2 3 1 2 3. Can you hear me? Yep, 1 2 3. Okay, Rob, can you give me a bit? Yep, 1 2 3 1 2 3. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? And then the final person was Murray.
Yeah.
And I said, Murray, can I do your? Yes, yes. So I said, Murray, I've actually prepared something for you. Could you read this? So I gave him a piece of paper which said, unless I'm very much mistaken, it's Tuesday and it's Tin Tops. It must be Tin Top Tuesday. So I gave it to him. It was cheeky, and he gave me a look as if to say, yeah, I know your game.
Yeah.
All right, okay. So he was a cheeky chap. He was, Murray, and he had a glint in his eye, and he's just the most lovely and wonderful man. So yeah, that was a long answer, wasn't it? Goodness me.
No, it was good. You had some, very great stories there, and yeah, I really look forward to hearing that, and I look forward to that as well. So
that's brilliant, Louis. Thank you, and thank you for being a listener. It is quirky. I never realised it would be as popular as it is, and I love doing it. I absolutely love doing it. I've been so blessed. We've had some really cool sponsors over the years. Toyota, Renault, Marshall amplifiers, which are close to my heart as a musician. But they've all done maybe 2 years, 3 years, and their support has been amazing. But for Autoglim to now be in the sixth year of supporting me and the show is just phenomenal. And to be associated with a brand as universally respected as Autoglim, it's a joy. I couldn't do it without them, because there would be no funding to be doing it. So it's thanks to them, really. So I'm grateful every year when they ring up and they say, yeah, absolutely fine, we can carry on. So I'm lucky. I'm really lucky. Yeah.
Good. Well, it's incredible, and thank you so very much for coming on the show. You've been absolutely brilliant to talk to. You're a big inspiration for me for getting into motorsport commentating. So thank you.
You are more than welcome. I remember what it's like to be your age and to be in my mind working out the things that I want to do and the places that I need to go. And you're doing the right thing, because what you're doing is putting yourself out there and gaining experience, and that is what will do you the most credit as you press on and hopefully start your career. Because experience, there is nothing that compares to getting experience, getting out there and doing it. The more you talk in front of a camera, the more you talk into a microphone, the more you broadcast, you're doing the right thing. But don't forget to do your homework.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like I say, thank you very much. All the best, and enjoy the season ahead.
Come up and say hello to me at Thruxton in August.
Yeah.
Very important.
All right, then. Take care. Thank you.
Cheers.